Okay, thank you. I could approach you overhead. So I'm just going to show you some photographs. 42, you did 42B. Recognize the scene picture here, sir?
I do.
What do you recognize this to be?
This was the scene shortly after the rain stopped. The large tarpaulin I described as covering the tire tracks. The two smaller red coverings going back into the pit towards the grassy area were covering what later were marked impression 2 and impression 3. And then to the left of those coverings was the tent and the tarpaulin that was covering the victim.
And again, just directing your attention, 2 is in this vicinity here, and 3 there, is that right?
That would be correct.
And 1 was in the foreground.
Correct.
Okay. I'm placing a 48. Does this show that the area where 2 and 3 is in relation to the body?
That is correct.
Again, this being what number?
2,
And this.
3.
And just with regard to this area, you described this as what?
It was a piece of plastic, thick plastic, and it was partially embedded into the ground, so it stayed right there the entire time.
And you also described an area sand and silty gravel material.
Yes.
I think you described it as size 2 by 5.
Approximately.
And the area up here, as we go up towards the body, that area, that material was what?
It was much more hard packed, and yeah, it's just much more hard packed dirt.
Now, so I'm going to 69. Do you have any case you watch a video of the crime scene at some point?
I did.
You recognize this as a scene from that?
Yeah.
And does this show the locations of placards 2 and 3?
It does.
I'm just going to put 69D. You also recognize this as a screenshot from that video.
I do.
And does that also show number 2?
That's number 2.
And number 3?
That is correct.
And just with regard to the orientation where this picture was taken from, where is the body in relation to this?
The position of the body is it is slightly behind Trooper Lombard, who's taken this video, so it's slightly behind and to his left.
And so just looking at the positions there and just going back to 48, is that essentially the same orientation?
Pretty much, but I would say Trooper Lombard, but probably a little further to the right of the victim.
Okay. So just going back to 42B. There was a tire tracks that you had previously described earlier in your testimony, are those shown here, sir?
Yes. You can see emerging from the tarpaulin the tire marks going back towards the red covering. You can see at least one of them right here going into the asphalt area, right there.
Now, at some point, sir, you indicated the tarp was taken off of where placard 1 was.
Yes.
Big tarp. And did you make observations, were there other areas of footwear impressions under the area that had been covered by that tarp?
Yes, in that general area there were a number of impressions.
And were there photos taken by the North Attleboro Police Department of that area?
Yes.
I'm just going to show you what's been marked. 99I is 99O. Here being 99I, you recognize this photograph?
I do.
Is that from that area, sir?
Yes.
99J,
Yes.
same area?
Yes.
And again, that the tire track is running essentially through the center of this.
Yes.
99K,
Yes.
and this shows the tire track again, also certain footwear impressions.
Yes, you can see one that's directly on the tire at the bottom of the photo.
In this area here, sir.
Correct. There's another one to my left of that tire in the sandy area. Correct. Another one up further here, again in that sandy area. There's another one at the bottom of the photo, right there.
Now, this area was approximately how far from where the body was located?
That was probably about 30 to 40, maybe 50 feet from the body, working back towards the entrance to this unimproved road.
I'm show you 99L.
Yes.
I recognize this photograph as well.
I do.
And does that show portions of the tire track impression as well as footwear impression?
It does, again, up towards the middle to the top of the photo. You can see a footwear impression that is on top of the tire track.
Showing 99M. What does this depict?
This depicts 1, 2, 3 different footwear impressions. You can see it in the sandy areas of this that's depicted in this photo.
Can you just point those areas out so I can show you?
There's one here which is actually part of a full footwear impression in the back and the front. This outline of this is another impression. Up here you have a very partial footwear impression. You can see some triangles up there.
Showing 99N. Recognize this, sir?
Yes, this is a full footwear impression and a partial footwear impression. They're both on top of a tire track. This is the full footwear impression I'm referring to here, and then there's a very small part of a footwear impression that's laid probably underneath this impression. So you have the tire, this impression, which is most of it's covered up, and then this full footwear impression on top of it.
With regards to the tire impressions, does that appear to have pre-existed or after?
I believe, it's my opinion that tire was there first.
Okay, and what makes you conclude that?
The characteristics of the tire are covered up by the characteristics of the footwear impression.
And 99O, you recognize this, sir?
Do. It's another picture of the tire. There's a partial footwear impression in this area. That's all I can pick up. There may be something down here. I'm not totally sure from the photo.
Now, sir, is it fair to say at some point you reviewed these photographs
I did.
And what your purpose in reviewing them is what?
My purpose of reviewing them was making an attempt to eliminate witnesses and first responders, or exclude or include them as the possibility of making these impressions.
Is part of your duties when you do footwear analysis to either trying to make comparisons but also to exclude footwear or footwear impressions?
Yes.
Did you, in reviewing these photographs, did you have an opportunity to have shoes from individuals that you understood to have been at the scene?
Actual shoes?
I'm sorry, photographs of shoes.
Yes. I had a number of photographs of footwear that were given to me to make comparisons.
Okay, and approximately how many photographs of footwear were you given?
I'd say around 20.
And do you know those photographs, were they of shoes of people that you recognize being at this scene?
Yes.
And if I could.
I'm just going to show you, sir, photographs of certain footwear that previously been marked, starting with Exhibit 4A. You recognize seeing this photograph before, sir?
Yes.
Facing 4B. You recognize this?
Yes.
What do you recognize this to be?
It's a pair of Nike shoes that were worn by a witness at the scene. I believe his last name is Kent.
Does this depict the outsole of that shoe?
It does.
And that's the, is that the right shoe?
It is the right shoe.
Show you now what's been marked 4C. You recognize that?
Yes, it's a left shoe.
Left shoe, and is that that same individual? Kent.
Yes.
And placing what's been marked 8A, you recognize this shoe,
Yes.
and what shoe is that?
It's the right shoe of a party by the name of Cambio.
8B, recognize that?
Left shoe, Cambio.
11A, you recognize this?
Yes, it's the right shoe. I believe the make on it's an OBO. It's the right shoe that was told Mr. Swithers.
11B,
It's Mr. Swithers' left shoe.
11C,
The same type of footwear design as the other ones. Mr. Swithers' left shoe.
excuse me, 11D,
Mr. Swithers' right shoe.
then exhibit number 70, has this, what's this,
Those are the police boots of Officer Zimmer for North Attleboro Police Department.
and with regard to, this is exhibit 100. And you recognize, first of all, you recognize these boots.
I do. There are another pair of police boots, I believe was Officer Grimm's from the North Attleboro PD.
Can you read that on that sign there, I've got it tilted?
It's a Vibram sole.
No, I'm sorry, down here.
Oh, it says John Grimm.
Do you know whether John Grimm was at the scene?
It is my understanding he was.
So, did you review these with regard to making comparisons, along with all the other ones, to individual footwear impressions that you observed in the photographs that I just showed you, 99I to 99O?
I did.
And as a result of that, did you prepare certain photographs with designations in the course of your examination?
I did.
May I approach? So first I'm going to show you this series of photographs. Ask if you take a look at those, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you recognize them?
Yes, sir.
And what do you recognize these to be?
There are a number of photographs of footwear and footwear impressions that we just reviewed from that general area, that on the tire track area, about 30 to 50 feet from the body.
And who made these?
Who?
I'm sorry, do some of them have markings on them?
Yes.
Okay, so the photographs that I just previously had shown you in the under the tarp at placard 1, are many of those photographs reflected here?
Yes,
And did you add at least some markings to designate certain locations of footwear impressions?
I did.
Okay. And then as well, certain shoes, did you add those in preparing this?
Correct.
Okay. Now, do you recognize, did you also prepare I guess what would be known as a PowerPoint or a slide, essentially just slides electronically?
I did.
Okay, is that contained on that CD?
It is.
Okay. Thank you. No, if I could have just one moment, please. Sidebar, please. If I could now have this marked, the paper copy first for identification and then the electronic copy. Thank you.
Thank you and thank you.
And you're on the court permission for the play this. Okay, sir, so beginning with this first image, you recognize this,
I do.
and what do you recognize this to be?
That's that mid-range photo that North Attleboro Police took depicting the tire track. I have now inserted numbers to, I've assigned numbers to different footwear impressions I've seen in this photograph, and that's what you see.
Okay. And with regard to assigning those numbers, did you then make comparisons toward, with a number of those photographs of footwear from responders or civilians that were at the scene of where you observed this body?
I did.
Okay. Now, beginning with the first one on this is a 6-2.2.
Correct.
Okay. And just, if we can go back 1 second for me, please. That's in the lower left-hand corner, is that right?
That would be correct.
And that's on the opposite side, the one that's on the opposite side of the tire?
Correct.
Okay. If you could. Now, does that show a close-up of 6-2.2?
Yes.
Now, did you compare, well, in the course of your comparison, were you able to find any similarities between any of the footwear of people who were at the scene?
Yes.
And who is that?
In
I'm
this,
sorry, let me just withdraw that question. First of all, just if you would describe 6-2.2, what does that show?
6-2.2 is a partial footwear impression, appears to be a heel.
Okay. And is there certain details in that heel area?
There's lateral lines running through the impression. There is a thicker line running down the middle of the impression. Towards the back of the heel, there is I would describe it as a half moon type of characteristic. You can see a striation, a thinner line at the back of the heel.
Okay. Now, and did you compare that? Could I have 1 moment, Your Honor, please? I'm sorry, sir. With regard to that, excuse me, that impression, you compared it to the photographs of the shoes you had?
Yes.
And were there similarities to any of the pairs of shoes?
Yes.
And to whose shoes were they similar?
It was similar manufacturing design to both Officer Grimm and Officer Zimmer's heel portion of their Vibram boots.
Okay. And can you explain to us, when you say similar to in manufacturing design, what does that mean?
That is that the heel portion of either one of these boots, right or left, could have caused this impression. The reasoning being, if you look at Officer Grimm here, for instance, he has a thick line running down the middle.
Sir, excuse me 1 second. Could you hold on that? I think, if I could, Your Honor, I'm going to, if I could use the overhead, I think he'll be better able to describe it with the marker. Okay.
Didn't see it. Okay. Great. Thank you. Sure.
Okay, sir. Just going back, this is now PP for identification, first photograph. Just with regard to 6-2.2.
Yeah.
You indicated there were certain details that you were able to identify in this as a heel print.
Correct.
And just, if you could, just point out what observations you made.
This is a thick line that I talked about that runs vertically. Not vertically. It runs through the longest part of the heel. Then you have these lines here, these lateral lines working through the back of the heel, and when I refer to that half moon area, it's right here, and you can see a thinner line of striation right here.
Now, we just clear that and show you the next. And again, these photographs and comparisons were made by you, is that true?
Yes.
So I'm placing this next document on the overhead. 6-2.2 that we were just showing us is on the left, and a pair of boots indicating Officer John Grimm on the right.
Correct.
Can you just show us any similarities that you see between the footwear impression and the boots?
Okay, again, that line that runs through the longest part of the heel, being right here. These lateral lines running across the heel portion, being these. The half moon area being right here. That half moon area being right here. Then you have corresponding lateral lines on the other side. And you would see that in the boot as well. These here going across this way. And that thin striation or thin line at the back of the heel would be this right here.
And you observe a similar pair of boots by another one of the first responders.
Correct. Officer Zimmer and Officer Grimm had a similar manufactured Vibram sole, and again you had these the long line running through, and the lateral lines running into that long line and the half moon at the bottom, being similar as Officer Grimm's.
Now going back to the main photo, the next one will be 6-2.3.
Correct. This one right here.
Okay. Just describe what you observed in that location.
In this location, you have, it's a full footwear impression. By full footwear impression, you have the back and the front of the shoe, but only one side of it. So you have this side of the shoe. The other side should be over here, but it's not. It didn't imprint. You can't see it.
I'm just going to put on the next photograph. Is that a close-up of 6-2.3?
Yes.
And if you can just erase that other mark. Okay. What observations were you able to make of this footwear impression?
Okay. In what was the heel portion of the shoe, you have a triangle, you have a bar, and up here you can see some lines that appear to be triangles, various form of triangles, but you can see some lines up here towards what is the front of the shoe. This is much clearer. You can see the curvature of the shoe, a triangle and a bar.
Is that compared against the pair of shoes?
Yes.
Did you find any similarities?
I did. Mr. Swither's shoe, and understanding that we have to take the shoe, we have to flip it over, so it's a mirror image of what we're seeing. And in this triangle here is this triangle here, but remembering that the actual raised portion of the impression we're seeing is the actual hollowed out impression part of the actual shoe. So the dirt here is being forced up into that void, and that's why you're seeing the triangle at that point. And then underneath it, you're seeing this bar, which is over here, is this bar. Again, flipping the shoe over, which is the left shoe, we're seeing this area of here of these triangles, and that's this area of these triangles here. So this is the left shoe of Mr. Swithers. There's more information over here, but it didn't print very well, so this part of the shoe over here is not, you're not able to see it.
So is that a consistent manufacturing design with the shoe of David Swither?
That is correct, his left shoe.
Now, just showing you the next photograph here. That 6-2.3 was there two sets of, two pairs of shoes that were provided by David Swithers?
Yes, and they appeared to be the same manufacturing and design.
Showing you now this, back to the main photograph. The next one, excuse me, is 6-2.4,
Yes,
right there.
that's correct.
Just, and we move to the closer up. Just describe what you observed in this photograph.
Not a lot. What I have, I saw a couple lines over here that appear to be of a footwear impression, or some type of impression for that matter. I was not able to compare this because it lacked quantity and quality to make any type of further comparison.
You characterize it LQQ, is that what that stands for?
That's what LQQ stands for, yes.
And back 6-2.5, where is that located?
That's at the bottom of the photograph, right here.
That's alongside that tire impression.
Correct, right next to the tire impression.
I'm just going to show you the close-up of that footwear impression. Can you describe what you saw there?
Yes, it's a partial footwear impression. You have some larger squares, I see 4 of them, and then immediately to the right you have some smaller squares. That's the pattern. Smaller squares here, larger squares here, very partial, small part of a footwear impression.
Were you able to compare that to the shoes, the photographs of the shoes of the responders in this building?
Yes. This appeared to be, and this was, I considered in my opinion to be a similar manufacturing design to Mr. Cambio's shoe. You have on this shoe, you have the larger squares to the outside, covered up by the icons on the right are a similar group of larger squares. In the middle you have these smaller squares. I cannot orientate this, whether this is going up or down, and as a result, it could have been made by the right or left shoe, depending on the direction of travel of this impression. So you have the smaller squares, on the outside you have the larger squares. So it would be the front of this shoe.
That just shows the photo of the other shoe. Right?
Yes, so you get your right or left shoe, could be either one.
Just going to, this next image, you recognize what's contained here.
Yes, this is the next mid-range photo that now has another group of footwear impressions that I think the next one is 6-2.6.
Okay, and where's that located?
That's located at the far edge of, the far edge of the photo right here.
Okay. And again, the area of this photograph, the scene in this photograph, is that in close to the area that we were just on?
That same general area, about 30 to 50 feet away from the body.
And was that contained under that tarp area?
Yes.
Okay. And
I'm sorry, the distance from the location of the body, this area?
About 30 to 50 feet.
So going now to 6-2.6, tell us about this impression.
That is the heel portion of a partial footwear impression. It impressed very well into that sand. So again, you're seeing the long line in the middle, followed by lateral lines, followed by that half moon, and then you've got those striations at the back.
And that was similar to some footwear impressions you've already described. Is that correct?
Yes.
and whose shoes was that similar to?
That was similar manufacturing and design, again, to the right or left boot of Officer Zimmer or Officer Grimm. And again, what you're seeing, those lines in the sand, is the furrows. It is the sand that is pushed up in between the ridge characteristics at the bottom of the heel. So the actual characteristics we're seeing are the actual furrows.
And that was comparison as well to Officer Grimm's shoes,
Correct.
similar manufacturers.
Yes.
Going to 6-2.7. Is that shown in this photograph?
Yeah, this is up at the top of the photo, right here.
Closer photograph of that here. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Just tell us about this.
We're looking at a partial footwear impression, but in addition to the heel portion we see down here, again, the long line, the lateral lines. Here you can see those small, thinner lines at the back of the heel. We have part of the front of this footwear impression. We have lateral lines. Now we have a thicker area in the middle. We have lateral lines on the other sides.
I'm just going to show you this next slide. Has that been compared to shoes?
Yes, it was.
Tell
And
us about that.
my opinion was that this footwear impression was caused by the left shoe of either Officer Grimm and Officer Zimmer. It is the general flow of this that's caused me to believe it's a left shoe. So again, we have to flip the shoe over. We're seeing the mirror image of what's on the bottom of it. And if you flip the left shoe over, you are now getting the curvature of going to that side. So I believe it's a left shoe.
Again, Grimm and Zimmer were wearing similar
Manufacturing design Vibram soles. Typical of these groups.
Going back to image 11 here. The next one was 6-2.8. Is that shown?
I believe it's right here.
Okay. And give you a close-up. Recognize that as that area.
Yes, this area here. Okay,
Can you just tell us about that?
understanding this picture's taken at a pretty extreme angle. You can still see the middle of that long line that goes through the heel, the half moon, lateral lines on both sides of that middle. You can actually see the thinner lines at the back of the heel.
Be able to compare that again to a pair that you thought was similar.
Yes, again, this brings us back to the Vibram soles of Officer Grimm or Officer Zimmer. That small partial footwear impression is similar in manufacturing design to those Vibram soles.
It's just a comparison to Grimm's.
Yes.
Now, 6-2.9, is that shown in this photograph?
Yes, it's right on top of the tire track.
And just, is there indications that that came after the tire?
Yes, because it is covering up the characteristics of the tire itself.
Let me show you a close-up of that, 6-2.9.
Okay?
Does that show the tire track being disturbed by the footprint?
It is.
And were you able to compare that and find any similarities to any of the shoes that you examined?
I did.
Can you just tell us about that?
Okay, on this shoe, it is going in this direction. This is the front of the shoe, and this is the back of the shoe. In the front of the shoe, we're seeing these small squares. You can see the patchwork of small squares in the middle here. You're seeing a little bit of a larger square on the outside, and in the back, as we're entering the heel portion of the shoe, we're seeing these blocks. You're seeing one set of blocks, another set of blocks. On the other side, the corresponding side, you're seeing a set of blocks.
Let me show you this next one.
So you flip it over, that is a left shoe of Mr. Cambio, partial footwear impression. That's my opinion, similar manufacturing design.
The next one is 6-2.10. Is that shown here?
Yeah, down towards the bottom.
Okay. Closer shot. Is that showing that footwear impression?
Yeah, it's a very small partial footwear impression down towards the bottom here. We have what I would describe as a parallelogram in this area here. There is a line going down the middle, and I believe this is going to be a bar here. It's a small part of the shoe.
Okay. Did you then compare that to a pair of shoes of David Swift's?
I did.
What's your thing?
The area we're seeing here, this small area, is this here, which is this here. I would describe as a square, and next to it you have this furrow here, which is this furrow here, and then underneath is this, I would describe as a parallelogram. It's a long triangle, long rectangle. But for this one, the orientation would be going this way, so the shoe, in addition to being flipped over, which is the left shoe here, I know the right shoe, I apologize, the right shoe, is flipped over, but also end to end. So this is the area that's impressing, and that small area is impressed here, and I see that line going down the middle here, and that's all you have on this right shoe, similar manufacturing design to this shoe.
And you also given photographs of a second pair of shoes of David Swift's, is that right?
Correct.
Is that also
Yeah.
the same type of shoes? Is that?
Yes, and again, being similar manufacturing design, we're looking at this area here with a line going down, being, so again, this square, this rectangle parallelogram, and this one here, you're getting just the furrow here, which is the furrow here. And you have this line going down the middle, which is the line going down the middle.
I'm going to image 13 to recognize this photograph.
Yes.
Is that, where is this photograph, the area?
This is in that same general area where the tire tracks were, underneath the top pollen, about 30 to 50 feet from the body. This mid-range photo contains 4 impressions, but 12 and 13 turned out to be one full footwear impression. So this one right here, 12 and 13, turned out to be one full footwear impression.
Now, does it also, so beginning with 6-2.11, can you show us what that is?
I apologize, yes,
I'm sorry, let me zoom in a little bit.
6-2.11 is this area here.
Okay. I'll show you the close-up.
Okay, very partial area of a footwear impression. What you're getting is the furrows of these alternate triangles here. So there's at least 3, maybe 4 visible in there.
Compare those shoes with the slips.
Correct, and that is similar in manufacturing design to this area of the shoe. Not sure if this is going this way or going this way. So it would include its right and left shoes, but it's just catching this portion of the shoe. So in this case, we'd be flipping this left shoe over and capturing this area and this area here. And this just representing it could be the right or the left shoe of either of the pair of shoes that was submitted for Mr. Swithers.
You understand you have the same types of shoes?
Yeah,
A pair of each.
they appear to be similar manufacturing design, yes.
And I just show the left of the other pair, and then the right of the other pair.
Correct.
Now, 6-2.12 indicated is a full impression or near the center there.
Yeah, it's showing with 6-2.13. On first look at it, it appeared to be 2 unconnected footwear impressions. After further examination, it's 1 full footwear impression.
Let me show you a close-up of that. That's 6-2.12 and 6-2.13.
Yes, these are these alternate triangles we've seen before. This is the heel of the shoe. We have a rectangle type square, lines that are going out of the impression. This area here appears to be some type of movement. Maybe someone else stepped on it. I'm really not able to do anything with this area of the shoe. But it's in the middle of this full footwear impression. That's all I can speak of on that area.
And again, you then compare that to Mr. Slade's shoes.
Yeah, compared to his right shoe here. So these alternating triangles, so we are going in this direction. When we flip that shoe over, so now these triangles are over here, we pick up this area of the shoe here, and this area of the shoe here, with these lines going out. So that's those lines going down and out of the impression. So flipping the right shoe over into that area.
And then you did the same with the other pair of shoes, the right.
The right shoe, yes.
Now 6-2.14. See that shown here?
Yes, down in the bottom right-hand corner of the photo.
Show you close up in that area. And just describe what you observed there.
Okay, for a matter of orientation, we are going in this direction. These are those outside squares that we have seen before. And then we have the smaller patchwork squares in the middle of the impression. Once you get to the other side, you can still see some of the outside squares that are right here. And then you actually carry right down to here.
Did you compare that against the shoe of William Cambio?
Yes, and this is the right shoe of Mr. Cambio. So again, these small squares we're seeing in the middle are the small squares in the middle. Again, we're flipping the shoe over. So now this side, these squares are going to be these squares right here. And then these squares are going to be the squares on this side here. The right shoe of Mr. Cambio.
We talked about all those 6-2.11 through 6-2.14.
Yes, we covered that issue.
Let me show you this next one that encompasses 6-2.15, 6-2.16. Can you see that?
Yes.
Can you tell us about this photograph?
Okay, again, we had spoke about this earlier. We have a... it stopped working on me a lot, but... Okay. We have... could you back it out, Mr.
Sure.
McCauley? So we have the tire track, and we have a full footwear impression, which I would loosely cover by doing this. And then we have another small impression off to the top. So we have a full footwear impression, a partial footwear impression that are laid upon the tire track, and we know that because the class characteristics have disappeared from the tire track.
That was compared against.
I'm first dealing with 6-2.15, which is the full footwear impression. What you can see here, again, taking the right shoe and flipping it over. So now this Nike going this way, the Nike will be going this way, and we're seeing that in here. And above this are these squares, I apologize, these X's that work towards the front of the shoe. You have like a star pattern on the bottom of the shoe, which is visible right here, the star pattern there. And on the outside of the shoe impression, we have what I would describe as a waffle type feature that borders, there's a series of 3 of those, until it gets to right about here. That is the impression of the right shoe of Mr. Kent. Similar manufacturing design.
With regard to that other piece that you were just talking about, compare that.
Yes. Now, again, understanding that the raised up area is actually the furrows, it would be in here. Then you have a bar that is formed by this feature there at the bottom of the shoe. So that bar is right here. And then at the bottom of the shoe are these lines. And these are these lines here in the heel portion of Mr. Swither's shoe. So we are flipping the shoe over. So it's the left shoe, and we're just capturing this piece, this left-hand piece, left shoe of Mr. Swithers. We're just capturing this small portion of his footwear impression. I believe the rest of the footwear impression is underneath Mr. Kent's, and Mr. Kent stepped down on the tire track, but also stepped down on Mr. Swithers' shoe and covered up any detail that was over here. Or the only other factor I could think of is he could have been just leaning on the side of his shoe, and he didn't take a full step down and was just kind of leaning against it. So that area of his footwear, flipping over his left shoe, would be is what we're seeing.
And then compared both pairs of David shoes to that area, is that right?
That's correct. No, and he has the same manufacturing design on those shoes.
Let me show you. It's marked 6-2.17. Recognize this?
Yes.
Just tell us about this area.
Okay, the way this photograph was taken, this is the full extent of the footwear impression. So we have 4 blocks to the back, and we have some smaller blocks to the front. The rest of the footwear impression is out of the screen. It's over here.
were you able to use what you could gather from this photograph to compare it to any pairs of the photographs of the shoes?
Yes.
And were you able to find any similarities?
Yes, to Mr. Cambio's left shoe here. So when we flip this shoe over, what we're catching in here, nothing is impressed. And that is this area here. It's a raised, appears to be a raised area of the shoe. These 4 blocks here, these 4 blocks here, and these smaller blocks in the front, these here. So we're flipping this left shoe over, and most of the shoe is out of focus of the picture, and the only thing we're seeing is the far edge of Mr. Cambio's left shoe.
Is that similar in the manufacturing design?
It is similar manufacturing design to the left shoe of Mr. Cambio.
So when you're doing analysis of footwear impressions, is it when you're either working with a pair of shoes, are you in a better position to be able to make comparisons when you actually have a known or a shoe to either attempt to include or exclude?
To have the actual shoes,
The actual shoes, or at least just a pair of shoes, to see if it's similar or dissimilar.
yes, it's an advantage to have the shoes.
Okay. Now, going back to the evening of June 15, 2013, you indicated there were 2 other, June 17, 2013. You indicated there was 2 other footwear impressions at placard 2 and 3, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And at some later point, did you have an occasion or an opportunity to make further examination of those, just focusing on the photographs?
Yes.
Now, later on, did you compare those footwear impressions to all of the photographs of footwear of either first responders, people at the scene, or civilians at the scene?
Yes.
And were you able to make any or draw any conclusions based on your analysis of those comparisons?
Yes.
And just tell us about that. With regard to, say, placard number 3, are you able to find any similarities in anybody's shoes?
I was.
And what shoes were those?
Those were the boots of Officer Zimmer or Officer Grimm, one of the 2. They had similar Vibram soles. Placard number 3 shared similarities with both those officers' Vibram soles, the front part of the shoe.
Okay. May I approach, John? I'm just going to show you this set of photographs and ask you if you recognize them.
I do.
What do you recognize those as?
There's a series of photographs, including some mid-range photos, close-up photos, and some comparison photos of placard 3 and 2.
Okay, and who prepared these photographs in this form?
I did.
And these photographs also contained on the CD that we'd marked for identification.
Correct.
So, sir, these are just the balance of what I was showing earlier.
Yes.
Mr. McCauley, you want to have those marked for identification?
I'm sorry, these are the balance of...
Okay, those are part of the same.
Correct.
What's your previously been
I'm sorry, Your Honor, that was PP for identification.
And putting this first photograph, you recognize that, sir?
I do.
And I had previously shown you an exhibit that had been previously marked, showing the same scene. Is that true?
Yes.
Now, a number or there's been an assignment of numbers. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And what's been assigned to what numbers are assigned to which?
9.1-09 is assigned to placard 2. 9.1-10 was assigned to placard 3.
And that's a number you assign at the as part of crime scene services to keep track of certain
Yes.
evidence.
Yes.
I'm just going to show you what characterizes mid-range 91-09 and 91-10. Just tell us about this photograph.
Yes, well, placard 3 is a little further up the hill. That's the one we're seeing to the left. It's in an area a little more rocky, a little more stones, a little more hard-packed. Placard 2 is in that area that I described as at the bottom of the hill, where sand and silt was able to drift down into that area, making it a little softer, a little more receptive to footwear impressions.
And this item down here is under the date and time. You recognize that?
Yes, that's that embedded piece of plastic that is in the ground.
So the orientation with regard to the body, where would the body be, the feet of the body from here?
The victim is located in this lower left-hand corner of the photo
They're indicating over in this area.
and further back.
And that place in 9.1-10. Recognize this?
I do.
What does this show?
This is that 9.1-10, which shows the front part of a shoe. And what we have here is the furrows caused by these lateral lines. There is a small circle here, more lateral lines that stopped by, it's part of the footwear. Small lateral lines in a larger circle, and you can start to see the part of the lateral line here.
Are you able to compare this to any of the photographs of footwear people have been at this?
I was able to, yes, I was.
I'm going to show you this next slide here. You recognize this?
I do.
What does this show?
Okay, this is Officer Grimm's boots, the Vibram soles. Again, we have these lines that fully get across, and then we have lines that are stopped in the middle of the shoe, but they're still lateral lines. Small circle and a larger circle. So we have a small circle, we have a large circle, so hard to see in this. There is another small circle above that. And I scratch this one here. Small circle at the front of the shoe. So the orientation is going in this direction here. You have a full line that goes across, which is this, and then you have partial lines that are stopped in the middle by how this boot is manufactured. There's a void in here. So you have these lateral lines, large circle, small circle. It could be either the right or left shoe of Officer Grimm or Officer Zimmer, similar in manufacturing and design.
This line is just in comparison to the officers.
Correct.
Going to 9.109,
Yes.
what does this show, sir?
This shows the impression that was made in that soft, silty area, sandy area. This is placard 2 that represents this impression. This is the heel portion of the shoe. Those are those wavy herringbone lines I've talked about. 1, 2, 3, and you begin to get a 4th.
Did you then have other pairs, excuse me, other pairs of shoes that you attempted to compare with that footwear impression?
I did.
I'll show you this next slide. Recognize these shoes.
Yes. Those are the sneakers of the victim.
These are the victims that were annoyed.
It is.
Approach on it. Sir, I'm just going to show you what's been marked 195A and B. Just ask you if you recognize these shoes, sir.
Yes, those are the sneakers that are referred to in here as 3-3, 3-4. They're Nike, I believe they're LeBron sneakers.
Okay. And what size are they, sir?
Those are size 13s.
And did you use these in your comparison to that, what was marked at placard number 2?
Yes.
Sort of that shown in the photograph here, the front and then the underside of the shoes.
Yes.
And just tell us, when you compared that to the footwear impression of found at placard number 2, what did you observe?
The outsoles of Mr. Lloyd's shoes have what is considered herringbone on the front and the heel portion of the shoe. Let me get this marked. So in this front part we have herringbone, in the back we have herringbone. In the middle of this series of rectangles in the midsole of the shoe. Okay. These they have a series of rectangles followed by a triangle at the end, a triangle right here. We have a sharp edge on the instep, so this would be his left shoe, and it's not very visible on this one. You can see it over here on the right. Again, we have a cutout with a sharp edge on it on this side. The shoes themselves these herringbones stick out in the back, herringbones stick out in the front.
And did you find any similarities? Just going to put that down, 9.109. Did you find any similarities in that area you're describing, the midsole of the shoe?
No, in the midsole of the shoe, you have the only real, you have this herringbone wave detail in the midsole of the shoe. That does not appear in Mr. Lloyd's shoe. His herringbone is exclusively on the back and on the front.
So as a result of not finding a similar pattern in that area, we were able to include or exclude that pair of shoes as having contributed or planted this footprint.
I was able to exclude Mr. Lloyd's shoes as making this impression.
Now, sir, at some point, you examine a pair of shoes known as Creative Recreation, Cesario, Low, and Herringbone.
I did.
And is this shown in the photograph of a pair of those shoes?
It is.
Just describe the unders of the outsole of those shoes.
The outsole of these shoes have a tight herringbone pattern that go most of the whole length of the shoe, obviously with the exclusion of this area in the midsole. I emphasize it's a tight herringbone pattern. Herringbone pattern is described as a V or an inverted V caused by parallel lines, and that certainly encompasses what we see in the herringbone in these creative recreation shoes.
So I'm just going to show you what was marked as Exhibit 348. You recognize these shoes, sir?
I do.
Okay. How do you recognize them?
They were submitted to my laboratory and I examined them.
And is that consistent with the outsole pattern that you've just been describing on the overhead?
Yes.
And so as a result of examining the outsole, were you able to conclude whether they were similar or dissimilar?
They were excluded due to manufacturing design. The herringbone pattern on these shoes are much tighter in true V herringbone, where these come in, go over, and end in a upward motion. These are much longer. The other herringbone is much tighter and could not have caused this impression.
Put on the overhead. This pair of shoes, sir, have you seen these before?
I have
And just describe what kind of shoes are these?
the Air Jordan, Nike Air Jordan Spizike shoes are a higher shoe, almost like, appears almost to be like a hiking boot.
And just describe the outsole of that shoe.
The outsole of that shoe has many different designs in here, a series of blocks, a half moon. It has an elongated pattern in there with Jordan in the middle of it, a series of patterns. No herringbone that would, no described herringbone within that footwear impression, known footwear.
You've been able to compare that impression 9.1-09.
Yes,
And what did you find?
excluded due to manufacturing design of that shoe.
Were there any similarities between the two?
No.
I'm just going to show you what's marked 360. You recognize these?
Yes, those are the Air Jordan Spizike hiking type boots.
Did you use this pair in the course of your examination?
I did.
So at some point, was there another pair of boots that were sent to you to examine and compare against that?
Yes. Yes.
Is this slide here showing that pair of boots?
It does.
Can you just describe what kind of boots are these?
I would have to refer to my notes. I don't remember the actual model of them.
Let me just kind of help you here. Is that shown on the sole of the boot?
Oh, yes, that's correct. Those were Brahma boots. That was the name of the manufacturer, Brahma boots.
B-R-A-H-M-A?
BRAHMA, correct.
Now just describe the outsole pattern.
This had a series of lines that ran across in the boot, some shorter lines, the longer lines, almost like a chevron type shape that runs down the middle, and some small lines at the bottom with a long line at the end.
Now, would the longer lines be considered herringbone?
No.
I'm sorry.
No, I would not.
And did you compare that again to,
The 9-109, yes, I did.
yes, sir. And what did you find?
Excluded due to manufacturing design.
Any similarities between the two?
No.
Let me show you this next photograph. You recognize it?
Yes.
What do you recognize this to be?
These are a pair of shoes that was submitted to the lab with a request that they be analyzed to the unknown footwear at the scene at that time, 9-109. They're a pair of size 13 Nike Jordan Future basketball sneakers.
Did you understand the future actually was put out to market sometime after June of 2000?
Objection.
Objection is sustained. I remind you not to ask leading questions.
Sir, did you, just yesterday, did you have a conversation with an individual by the name of Herb Hedges?
I did.
And as a result of that conversation, did you, was this pair of shoes acquired?
Yes.
In terms of, did you later have an opportunity to compare the sole of this shoe to the sole of a Air Jordan 11, a retro 11 low?
Yes.
And are they the same or different?
They are the same.
Okay. So at this time that you had this pair of shoes, did you have an Air Jordan retro 11 low?
No.
Did you with this pair, understanding that they were the same pattern as the other shoes, did you use this to compare against the footwear impression at Placard 2?
I did.
Does this photograph fairly accurately portray the outsole of the future shoe heel?
It does.
And if you could just describe, to make a comparison with when you have a pair of shoes, how do you go about making comparison to a photograph when you have a pair of shoes that you want to compare against?
There's several different methods to prepare a known shoe to make a transparency, so you can do a overlay over a natural size photo. One of the most common ways is to use printer's ink to roll ink on the bottom of the sole, so it's now on those raised portions of the tread, and you simply step that on to any type of white copy paper. The white copy paper is allowed to dry, and then you make a copy of it. Now the copy being the transparency is fed through the copy machine, and you now have a life-size natural transparency of that shoe. Another common way is to apply a layer of Vaseline to the bottom of the shoe, and then that is stepped onto paper, and using powder, fingerprint powder, and you dust this. And now the features, the characteristics of the shoe is now on that paper. Again, you make a copy, usually either a scanner or a copy machine, and you do now have that life-size one-to-one photo. Those are a couple of the most common ways to create a transparency so comparisons can be made.
Did you make transparencies in this case?
I did.
Approximately how many?
For all shoes?
For all shoes.
Seven or eight. Yeah.
Did you make a transparency of the outsole of the future?
I did.
Just refer to the record, that's showing is 71-1, 71-2.
No, it's 71-1. The evidence CD is the 71-2. So 71-1 denotes both the right and left shoe.
So I'm just going to show you, at some point you made a transparency of 71-1.
I did.
Do you recognize this photograph?
I do.
What do you recognize this to be?
That is the transparency of the left shoe of the future size 13 Air Jordans.
Okay, just describe what technique did you use to make that?
This was done with ink and placing it onto paper and scanning and turning it into a transparency.
And was this then scaled as a 1-to-1?
Yes.
Now, once you had scaled this as 1-to-1, what did you do with that?
Once I scaled that as 1-to-1, I made a comparison to latent print 9-109, which was placard number 2 from the scene.
Okay, I'm just going to show you this photograph. You recognize what's depicted here.
I do.
And just tell us, what is that?
It's a side-by-side with the impression. The photo here is not to scale, so this impression on, the known impression on the left is not to scale, as well as the one on the right is not to scale. It's not been blown up to natural size, either one. And so the photo on the right is the 9-109 footwear impression from the scene.
Just show you this next one. This first one, just so we can distinguish. This is JJS 5162.
Yes.
So that's the one I just showed you. This one, JJS 5165. Just tell us about this.
This photograph, as I explained earlier, a number of photographs are taken, with a light focus in different directions. One feature that it should be brought out is depending on which way the light is facing. Sometimes the photo suffers from what's called an inversion effect. It's an optical illusion, and if you had the ability to turn your screen upside down, the shoe would look like it's down. But if the light is a certain way, your eyes are going to play tricks on you, and it makes the impression look like it's coming out of the ground. It's just the way the light is cast on it. It's called the inversion effect, and it's an optical illusion. But what is depicted in here is that 9-109 with the light cast in a different direction.
And again, that's still the same transparency of the future.
That is.
And then again, just this is now a comparison, 71-1, 9.109. Is that just a different lighting on that footwear impression?
Yes, that is correct.
Now, sir, at some point did you receive a pair of Nike Air Jordan Retro 11s lows?
I did.
And did you have an opportunity to make comparisons of those as against this footwear impression?
I did.
Your Honor, may I approach? Just going to show you what was marked 356 to show you these items. Do you recognize them?
I do.
Okay, what do you recognize those to be?
Those are the Air Jordan 11 Retro Lows, size 13, that was submitted to me, and I gave them the lab designation of 75-1.
Okay, there's tags on both shoes,
There are.
and who prepared those tags?
I did. Those were my initials.
And when you first received them, what shape were they in?
They were brand new.
Okay, and there appears to be certain substances on the bottom.
Yes.
What is that?
That's the printer's ink that I used to prepare transparencies.
So you made a transparency of this item.
I did, both right and left.
And
This item was, you assigned what number to it?
75-1.
And the transparency that you made, what number was that?
It's 75-1.
I'm going to show you this next set of photographs. Does that show the item that I just showed you, both the top side and the underside?
Yes.
Now, with regard to the transparency that you just described, may I approach you? So I'm showing you this item. I'm asking you, do you recognize it?
Yes.
What do you recognize that to be?
That is the transparency that was made from the Retro 11 shoes, the outsole. So it is the life-size replica of the bottom of the shoe.
Okay, so the two shoes that I just showed you,
This is the left shoe.
that is the left shoe. Okay. You want to offer this if you need to.
Ron, can we approach on this, please?
Cut off this one. Subject to this.
It's 75.
Were you about to put it on the presenter? It's a minute or two toward one we suspend at this time, we'll resume at 2 o'clock. We might suspend it. Would all rise? Jury, please.
Trial of this case, the defendant requested and the Commonwealth provided, we actually transported to a person, Greg Danis, who was identified as then the defendant's ballistics expert, all of the ballistics evidence. So the projectiles and the shell casings all went to Mr. Danis for his examination. And I believe, based on cases in which Mr. Danis has appeared on in other matters, that Mr. Danis was actually present during the testimony of both Sergeant Walsh and Kyle Aspinwall. And so the suggestion that this is now sort of an immediate and unexpected need, Your Honor, and that there's this need for further examination of the ballistics evidence, which is now in the custody of the court into evidence.
I thought what was indicated what the motion says came as a surprise, was that the Commonwealth's witnesses
Right, Your Honor. I guess that's
stated that the one stated that he had never heard of the mocking barrel, and the other stated he wasn't sure when it became available.
Well, and that's sort of why I'm getting to that, Your Honor, is that nowhere in the government's case has there ever been the idea that this is at all related to a Glock marking barrel. You'll recall, Your Honor, that, and I suspect that Mr. Danis is the person who has provided that information, because it just simply isn't within the government's case, not anywhere in the Commonwealth's evidence. So when you break down the paragraphs as they deal with the Commonwealth's witnesses, and then you come to the last sentence, which expresses surprise, I don't agree with that. Sergeant Walsh testified regarding his opinion, which was well documented.
Well, but what you said, but what they say came as a surprise was Walsh's not realizing there were Glock mocking barrels and Aspinwall not knowing when they became available. So is there anything that would indicate that either of those two witnesses had contrary information? I mean I'm not sure what shows that their testimony on that issue wasn't a surprise.
That there was no anticipation that they would testify the way the defendant has expected. Because if you look at what was said by Sergeant Walsh, he provided a written report of his examination that was provided. He based his opinion not on on a match. What he described is exactly what he described in his report, that they're similar and, in his opinion, fired by the same weapon. What he described, Your Honor, is not that these marks are incidental to manufacturers, that he described that they're not class characteristics. He did not describe how those marks could have been placed on the ballistics evidence, because he, in fact, doesn't know. In fact, what he testified to is entirely consistent and couldn't have been a surprise, is that Glocks, as they're intended to in their design, don't generally have a number of markings. That was elicited by the defendant on cross-examination. His cross-examination really, in large part, Your Honor, dealt with the Miami barrel. And when he was asked whether or not he was familiar with a Glock marking barrel, there was no reason for the defendant ever to have anticipated that he was, because he's never indicated that he had any information about the Glock marking barrel in anything that was provided.
Why wouldn't one anticipate, if there is such a thing as a Glock mocking barrel, that a ballistics expert would know about it? And why couldn't one anticipate that someone being put forward as a Glock expert and a Glock salesperson would know when it first became available?
And what he testified to, Your Honor, is he first became aware of it in August of 2013.
Right.
Right? And so, as far as he knows, that is the first appearance of it in his knowledge. So, for the defendant to suggest that he should have other knowledge, there's no information about that. And that's why, ultimately, I'm coming to what my position is, Your Honor, is I think that to the extent that the defendant suggests otherwise, before the court rules on his motion, Mr. Dede, and I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, and I apologize if I'm not, but I think there should be a voir dire, because the relevance of all of these things, the suggestion that it's a surprise, the defendant had a ballistics expert beforehand. He was here during the course of the testimony of both of these witnesses. They didn't say anything that was inconsistent or contradicted by anything that they had ever said before. There now comes this suggestion that it's a surprise. I don't think it's surprising, because I don't think it is applicable. If Mr. Dede is suggesting to the court, which we have no affidavit from him, that there is, and on the basis of what is ascribed to him, I don't see any basis to conclude that it is contrary to what either of these witnesses have said. I'm suggesting to the court we should be able to hear from Mr. Dede before he ever looks at the ballistics evidence to see if, in fact, this is the circumstance.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I can understand why the Commonwealth doesn't want Mr. Dede to look at these projectiles, but frankly their argument is completely without merit. Your Honor, Mr. Walsh, based on my notes, Sergeant Walsh specifically testified that, in his view, the striations on the projectiles were incidental to the manufacture of the barrel, and that they were not intended by the manufacturer. Mr. Walsh, Sergeant Walsh knew all about the Miami barrel, which was back in the early part of the century, and frankly, I was flabbergasted that he claimed to have no knowledge of the Glock marking barrel, which has been, well, we'll find out how long it's been around, but it's certainly been around in a .45 caliber version, available, as Mr. Aspinwall testified, to law enforcement only. I was also, frankly, flabbergasted that Mr. Aspinwall didn't know when it first became available to law enforcement. So based on those, and it may not have been part of the Commonwealth's case, but it's certainly something that the defense has always been interested in this case. And that's why it was brought out, not on direct examination, but on cross-examination, which is our constitutional right. That's why we have trials, Your Honor. So I retained Mr. Dede the day we had off, Your Honor. 2 days ago, Monday, Mr. Dede agreed, after I talked to him on the telephone and described the situation, that he'd be willing to come up here, if the court permits, to examine those projectiles. That's all we're seeking at this point. And I have no idea what he's going to find out, Your Honor. He's obviously, frankly, I think he's the most qualified person in the country on Glock marking barrels. And he's the person who should be looking at this evidence. If in fact he has evidence which we consider to be relevant and admissible, we'll make a specific proffer. If the court wants to hold a voir dire, of course we'll have a voir dire. But at this point, Your Honor, all we're asking for is defense access, or the access of this expert to examine the projectiles, which I think is absolutely essential for Mr. Hernandez to be able to exercise his constitutional right to put on a defense and to have a fair trial.
Could I just say, Your Honor, I don't understand how anything that Mr. Aspinwall said could have been a surprise. They met with Mr. Aspinwall. The suggestion that somehow if you don't agree with a question in cross-examination, that's a surprise. I don't think that that's what surprise means for the purposes of this motion.
Thank you. The motion is allowed that the defense expert can examine the evidence with under a microscope, that if the defense chooses to seek to use this person to testify, depending on the quality of any report that may be provided, the court will or won't have a voir dire. At that time, if the defense chooses not to call him, then there'll be no voir dire. We'll resume at 2.